Sometimes when we're shooting headshots or portraits, we might get a reflection off the glasses from the studio lights, umbrellas, or softboxes, whatever you're using. And in this case, you can see that these reflections are quite bad. It can be tricky to remove these using normal tools in Lightroom or Photoshop, but now that we have AI available to us, I've found that it's particularly easy to remove these reflections using Photoshop. So let's edit the image in Photoshop 2026. Photoshop loads up and the image should appear. So we have the image. I'm typing Control 1 and holding space and moving it so that it's in the center of the area that we want to work with. So in order to remove the reflections, I'll first of all just use the lasso tool and make a selection. It doesn't have to be desperately accurate here, but I'll pick the reflection of that eye. I'm going to use generative fill, and I'm going to just stick to the Gemini 3 with Nano Banana Pro that is currently available in Photoshop. So let's just stick with that, and I'm going to say remove reflection, but leave the eye intact, and click on generate for that. Photoshop takes a few seconds to do this, not terribly long, probably about half a minute. And we have a little patch generated without the reflection. Now the patch doesn't match up exactly, and this is the point really of this tutorial. If you go to adjustments and take a hue and saturation adjustment and click the little icon that links that adjustment to only the layer below it, then we can first of all change the hue slightly to make it match up with the general hue of the rest of the image, and then take the saturation, reduce that down a bit so that it generally matches, and finally to make it completely match in, we just take the lightness down a little bit, and now you can see that that matches in. So let's just check that we've got those adjustments right. I'm holding down Alt so that when I click on the little eye, it will only show that layer. So you can see that it's maybe slightly lighter. So let's just go back to the adjustment and darken that down just slightly more. Let's do the test again. It's pretty similar now. So that's a good job of removing the reflection. Let's do the other one. So go back and select the original image. Use the lasso tool to get all of the eye in. Use the same prompt here. Remove the reflection but leave the eye intact, and press return on that. Again, Gemini 3 will work up a little patch without the reflection. Again, the hue and saturation is just not what we would want, so I'm going to just click on adjustments, add a hue and saturation layer to that. Click on the little clipping mask here to make sure it only affects the layer below it. I'll just do the lightness first and just bring it down to approximately the right level. Then we can make the other changes. So that's generally getting the color about right. And then reduce the saturation a little bit to try and make it match what the original was. So let's have a look again at that. It has made a slight movement to the eye. You could adjust that with the transform if you wish, but it's done an incredible job of removing the reflections. Pressing Control 0 just so you can see the full image. And then if I do that, you can see it's done a beautiful job of removing the reflection. So the trick here is in the hue and saturation layer that we apply. I can then just close that down, save it. Back into Lightroom, we now have the two images. Just put that down to full size. That's it. We can flick between them, and it's just done that incredible job of removing the reflections. So I hope you found that helpful. In years past, it was an enormous piece of work, sometimes depending on the situation, to remove reflections from glasses, but now it can be done in a few seconds with artificial intelligence. Hope you found that useful, and if you did, please subscribe to the channel. Give the video a like if you found any benefit in it, because it really does help small channels, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one.